Right, so I thought I'd come on here and talk through how to stay on plan traveling. Now, this is a really common question that I get from a lot of clients. So I went to Turkey and I had the most fabulous time. But I think there are some ground rules for which I always follow by and I advise my clients to follow by. But before we get into this, please make sure you give this video a like and a subscribe, and let's keep it rolling. So for Turkey, I made sure that I wanted to stay on plan. I knew that I had a lot of travel coming up and I had access to a kitchen. So that's tip number one. Making sure that you book an Airbnb with access to a kitchen as opposed to a hotel. If you are in prep or if you have a goal, having access to a kitchen so you can prepare your foods. Now, I always pack my dry goods. So packing my dry goods such as cream of rice, protein powder, oatmeal, dark chocolate, anything that is dry goods goes in my hold luggage, meaning my suitcase. So this therefore makes sure that I can be having access to my normal foods. I always, before I even step into the country or where I'm going, I know where my gym is, I know where my supermarket is. All of these allow me to make sure that I can be prepared where I'm going. Now, do I need to preface to say that everyone needs to do this? No, this just makes me feel better when I'm traveling, and I travel a considerable amount where I know that it works better for me. So as soon as I am flying, I do protein fat. I've explained this before, but basically I hold a lot of water retention as a person. So making sure that I can be protein fat when I am doing these flights helps me minimize my water retention. That means that I have an hour, 2 hours before I fly, and as soon as I land. I rejig the meals to make sure that I am staying within my parameters. But if that means I'm just having protein and veg, and I double up on my carbs if my food's not too high. If I'm in a prep scenario, very different. Like it's not that hard. Also making sure that I am in a similar setup. So I know that I am a creature of habit and I like my routine. So knowing that I have access to the gym is something I set up, emailing them before or seeing how much the day pass is or a week pass, seeing different gyms for different equipments, doing my research beforehand on Instagram to see where am I training legs out of, upper out of, do they have similar equipment. If you go somewhere like the US, it's really easy to have like Hammer Strength and Prime in a local gym. But if you're in Turkey, for example, when I went to Turkey, it was very much techno gym, which I'm not opposed to. So knowing where I'm training, some of my clients take time off, which is fine. But for me, I love to train. So knowing that I have access to the gym is the best I can do. Trying to also book your flights around your rest days. Hold on, let me change the battery pack. I'm so sorry, I had to change the battery pack. I'll let it focus. There we go. So knowing that when I am flying, I try to make sure that I'm around a rest day if I can. Sometimes flights are so expensive you don't have anything around it. But knowing when I'm flying is super important. Planning out my day around when the flight is, so knowing when I need to be at the airport. I use my Passion Planner, wherever it is, to literally document exactly what I'm doing, and I also have Google Calendar. Planning ahead is super important so you know what you're doing. Once you get there, making sure that you find the supermarket, which you can, depending on where you're going. So if you're going to the US, Walmart, Trader Joe's, etc. But when you are going to another country, whatever you can get. So for me, I know that I need frozen berries. I always have a list, eggs, fish, vegetables, but I also have some flexibility in that. So if I want to try new food, I can try that, but making sure that I get water, for example, if I'm going to somewhere like Turkey, is super important too. When you're traveling, I think I find comfort in my routine, and I know that a lot of my clients do, and a lot of people I speak to do. So making sure I'm sticking to a similar routine, depending on the time zone difference, depending on when my clients check in, depending on when I need to work, I will ensure that I keep a similar routine. Now, sometimes I do 2 sessions, so abs, cardio, steps in the morning, and then train after a few meals. Sometimes it's one big session, depending on if I'm going away. I went away for a wedding, so it's super important that I did one big session so I could have the rest of the day for the wedding. Planning my sessions around that accordingly is also important, so that I'm enjoying that flexibility, but also enjoying what I love to do. And I do love to train. It's time for me, and it's time out for myself. So it's something that I do preach to clients. When you do find that balance, it's also super important that you do find that you are allowed to be in your routine. You are allowed to be out of your routine, but also in your routine, if that makes sense. So these are little tips and tricks that I've picked up along the way. I always carry my weighing scales for food. I always carry my body scales. I make sure I stick into the same similar routine. Generally, if you're going for a city break, I found that my steps were not an issue, so I really did not go on the treadmill to do any steps, because generally most of the day I was active, making sure I stay hydrated, ensuring that my salt intake was correct, to make sure my electrolyte balance was correct. All of these things really do help. So if you have any tips, tricks about traveling, I hope you leave them in the comments down below. I have picked up a lot along the way, and if there's anything else that you want to know about traveling, let me know, because I would happily cover it. And make sure that you give this video a like, and any questions, drop them in the comments.